So this is my game. I convert a van, I use it for a few years, and then I sell it for a profit. With this method, it doesn't matter what my budget is. Owning a van doesn't cost me a dime. Later in this video, I'll tell you more about this. I built this van over 26 days, while at the same time filming 150 videos for our van build course. See the link in the description for more about this and our ebook, which is now in its 14th edition. Now it's going to start doing some basic prep work. We're going to install a little key safe lockbox. There's a good spot literally just by the door to hold the gas tank up, and somehow mark it will be a bit of a nightmare. So what I've done, I've just taken a bit of cardboard to basically make like a simple template. So now we're going to try and mount the gas tank. We're going to install a window. Now this is a tinted window, bonded on, which means we basically glue it to the side of the van. The next phase is we want to apply the primer. We're going to install a Maxx fan. This van, I'm a little bit lucky because the only place I want to put my fan is right at the end here, and it's got this kind of flat area which is made for putting aircon units. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a simple frame. And now I'm going to go around the unit. Very easy touches. I'm going to start with the subframe of the roof. Basically line it up. We've done these top parts. Now we're going to work on some of the stud work which goes around this side. So this piece in here, it's really strong now. Now we're going to do the floor, which will be a mix of putting some stud work down, insulation, and then apply finish. This first bit I've cut to length. Because there's a funny like lumpy bit at the back, I've just shaved the back off. Maybe about that's about right. I'm not going to insulate the floor where the shower is. It's going to mean we have like a bit of a cold floor in winter in the shower, but it does mean I'm going to have the maximum height in there for showering. So I'm now just putting a good line of this adhesive down. So before I insulate and put my ply on the floor, which will really kind of seal it all in, I've decided to put some conduit. So my idea is my electrics will be in this corner, and then I'll just leave a couple of conduits, one going to the front of the van and one going to this side. So the next phase of the flooring is we're going to put the polyiso board in. I'm going to cut the ply before I put the insulation in because I don't want to be walking around on the insulation damaging it. I can basically draw that out. So I've got my floor. Now I can remove all of these panels. We'll do the Celotex, we'll insulate, we'll put in the conduit, and then we'll put it all back down. There's a few little gaps and little bits we can fill. So I'm going to put a big kitchen unit across here. So this will be the backsplash, and above that maybe a spice rack, and then some thin cupboards which will access above the cab. I'm not going to remove anything this time. I'm not going to have a hatch even. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bolt a frame to this because this upper part is at 90 degrees to the base of the van. So as you can see, we've framed out basically what will make up the back of the kitchen. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use quite a beefy piece of wood to give me something that I can always screw into when I'm building my bed out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of plywood in there, and then I'm going to add this shower wall on top. I've been just trying to see how it looks with plywood on it, and I realized it'd be good to bridge this bit a little bit. And now we have a kind of quite a smooth run all the way up to the top. As I continue to work around the kitchen, I want to prepare where I'm going to fit my water tank. Hey, this is Nate from the future, and I just want to tell you that I'm hosting a free online training that will teach you how to make van life zero cost or profitable. In this free seminar, I will show you exactly how to buy a van, build it out in a profitable way, and avoid the mistakes that most people make. I will show you how I made van life free and a bunch of other stuff that nobody else talks about. If you want to join, just click the link here or in the description and register for free. Now I've got pretty much the back wall done. I'm gonna install 2 of these windows in my van, each side of the bed. Like the other window, this window is essentially bonded on. All we've got to do is cut the hole in the right place at the right size, put on a glue line, and then glue it into the panel. So when I'm deciding the height of these windows and where I place them, I want them to kind of be central within the bed. I'm basically going to have a double bed which goes sideways, but then what I would like to do is add a bed plug, which is like an extra piece of mattress which you put in and you take out, which will turn it into a king size bed. So my bed is 4'6", so 137 centimeters, and the bed plug is about 15 inches, around 35 centimeters. So what I would like to do is have it so I can remove that bed plug, and then the ends fall over and it will fit underneath the window. That's it. So we're taking that out. So my window is going to go here. Now I'm applying the primer, as you're probably meant to do it in just one continuous run. Just pop it. Now these windows are in, I can start working on a bit of a frame. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to make a slider box. So I've made my first slider window unit, and as I make the next side, I'll walk you through how I did it. So first I have my back pieces, which I'm just making to the same size. So it fits. The next job is to make the back piece. So now I'm just checking it. So because I need to finish these before I put them in, I'm gonna paint a blue stripe right down the middle. These are basically almost dry. So here, this is gonna be a chair. Within the chair, I'm gonna have the water heater and also the gas air heater. They both need to be vented outside the van. So my holes come through here, and I know from there to here I have a beam. Under this point we have beam, a cross beam, and then a big fat bracket. But I think we can bring it in here. So we've got a position for that. I'm quite happy with it. I think it'll be fine. Now I need to work out the exact position for the water heater and cut the hole. Next thing I'll do is I'll apply some sealant. So all I've got to do now is wait for this to dry, and then this bit just hooks on, screws in. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to have 2 water tanks. I'm going to have one tank which is going to be dedicated for the shower, and one tank which is going to be dedicated for drinking water and cooking. I can also add a pipe which goes from this tank through the pump to the other tank, so that if there's good water in both of them and you run out of drinking water but you still have shower water, you can turn on a tap and you can basically empty this tank into your drinking ones. I'm now going to drill a hole here. This is going to be a hole to take the drain out. The drain out will come from my sink, so I'm going to have 2 options. One to take into a small waste tank and one just to let it go outside, depending where I am. I'm going to install the gas fill-in point, which means the hose which goes from the gas station pump will go in through here. It's going to go through the floor and into the tank, which is underneath the van. Slot that in. I'm going to drill a hole now which will have the gas coming from the regulator which is fitted under the van, and that will come up through into this box, and then inside here I'll have my manifold. So we've got all the holes in the van, we've done almost all the stud work. The last most important thing to do before we start insulating is to do the wiring. We're just going to basically, from where I'm going to have my battery, where I'm going to have my fuse box, I'm going to run those cables and I'm going to mark them on the end using some masking tape. So this is my van design, how it's going to look. And then I'll just click my electric layer and then I can see all the points, just the red boxes where I need to put things. Okay, so got that one through a little bit of a game. So I want it to be here. Now I'm going to leave myself a generous amount of extra cable. I think it will come down here. So I've finished now with the light wiring. So I'm going to run this through the front of the van because I'm going to have to bring in split charge cables. Today isn't feeling very hard. She's pretty much just taking what I give her. So now we're good. Now I can use my cable drawer for the next run and bring pipes anywhere I want. Now, one of the last things I need to do before we insulate, I need to make sure I have appropriate stud work and anything in place for holding my shower faucet. That's going to work. I am insulating the van with this recycled polyester fleece. We will be using the Trim Fix adhesive to stick it to the wall and stop it falling down, and we'll also be using some spray foam to fill in places that we just cannot get the fleece. I'm going to start by putting it in here. Anywhere where I have like a little gap where I haven't managed to fill, I can always just put a line of spray foam. So a little tip, obviously here it could sag, but I don't really need to spray glue the whole top. And I'd like the edge to touch this, so what I can do, I can just spray the top of that and then you can just bring it up and magically it stays there. What we're really trying to achieve here is just a tight fit everywhere. What's just as important as what you do insulate, I think it's also really important what you don't insulate. And what I'm not insulating here is right down the back of the wheel arches. So if in the future someone needs to do some welding, there's a good hand span distance. None of this is pushed right into it, it's just to the edge. Likewise, in the bottom of most vans there's a sill. So this goes down a really long way, and the bottom of that sill is often the bit which needs to be welded. So I'm not going to touch them. Some channels don't have any holes, so we're just going to have to spray foam them if we want to insulate them. But then these ones are quite big, so what I can do, I can get chunks of my insulation or strips of it and I can push it into these gaps. So now I've applied all of my insulation. I bought about just enough. Now it's time to do some spray foaming. So there are some parts of the van where you just can't get insulation. So for these, we're going to use spray foam. This is a reinforced foil vapor barrier. As we're applying the fleece, we're going to be using the auto carpet glue, the trim fix, and also we're going to be using this foil tape. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do first the bottom layer, then I'll lift it up, I'll spray all the parts which I want to stick it to, and then I can cut out all the areas afterwards. First I'll cut for my wires. And then because I want my window to act as a moisture barrier as well, I'm gonna seal it in underneath. It's not gonna go anything I can see. So we've got this in place, pretty secure now, and now we can start framing out the kitchen. To start my kitchen, I'm going to start off by building the back bar. So I built this back corner, and we already have a piece of stud work here behind the scenes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to build a similar frame at the front. So just to make my life a little bit easier, I'll be using a few of these little corner brackets just to get things set up. This is the kitchen, really simply boxed out. Now I'm going to build the wall, which comes from around the shower. So first I started building from that side, and now in the same way that I marked out the van, I'm going to start building from this side inwards. So what I've been doing is I've put in this piece, I've cut it to size, taken the back off just to help it bend. And what I'm using screws to do the bending. And I've got holes which go all the way through. And then I'm using the impact driver, and I'll go through them bit by bit. What this really does, this gives me the exact end of my bed. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find, here it is, the big beam we put in to support the bed. I'm going to work out the exact height of the bed. I'm going to take away the bed slat, and I'm going to screw a piece of stud work along it. So as you can see, we've got a shape of a bed. What I wanted to do was sense check this one. We've got a fridge in it which rolls out, and I want to put the safe in it as well. So I need the clearance for whatever that lifts up to be. Although it'll be thinner, I'll put a strut down the side to encase the safe in. And then in the front we have the fridge, which is going to be on some kind of runners. But the fridge, as it comes out, can't go any further than this. So what I'm thinking is basically having part of the seat on a hinge, and as you lift up the fridge, it will just roll up. Now that's really strong. This is in place, and it opens no problem. Pull it out on runners, no further than that probably, and then we can lift it up. So now I could put my manifold here, have the gas come up, and then it will go off to my things, and I could build like a little cupboard around it. Nice, so now allow us to turn on and off the gas. So as we're continuing the stud work, what I wanted to do was start to divide the areas. So beside the bed, we're going to have cladding, and on this side, we're going to have some slats. I'm just working out how I'm going to do my stud work around my battery and my electronics kit. This is my big lithium-ion battery.
I chose a 400 amp hour battery from Ampere Time. It's an absolute monster, but it's great value for money, and they offer good customer support and a decent warranty.
This is the inverter, so it takes 12 volt to mains power. Then we have my cellular charge controller, And then we have my battery to battery charger. Also on this board, we'll have the fuse box and some cutoff switches and some other fuses. So to manage that, we need to build a bit of a frame. And I like to have a slider door, which will slide open and shut. So these two will be my sliders. So I've made this structure. What I've done is I've made this top beam, which will take the slats, so it breaks the slats up and will make them stronger across the distance. I've made a subfloor, which will just put a very thin bit of ply in here. And that would just mean we can kind of stuff stuff in there. I don't know what, but you can imagine like towels or bedding, stuff that you don't need to access very often. And then this will be paneled in, but I have a hole here as it stops here. And then I'll be able to drag it across and then cover up all my electrical stuff, which will be in here. Now the fridge is going to be in this space. So I put a couple bits of ply down to make sure I get the right height. Put it to the end and I just slide it out so you can access where the screws go. They give you very small ones, very short, small screws, because it's designed to go in a lot of different applications. But I'm just using slightly longer ones because I can. So I've got quite a strong runner. So now it should just fit in there. So we have our fridge in. Now I'm gonna put my safe in. So what I've done to fix this in is I've put 2 extra studs down the side and they're all like meshed in with other screws, and I've basically screwed it down properly to the base studs as well. So I'm gonna put a cupboard here and I wanna get in like the first kind of back piece of it. So I've set the table saw at the angle and I'll just run this through it. So we have an angle now, so that's gonna come in here. Now we need to figure out where the top beam's gonna be. So now I can take apart my guides. So we've got the bare bones of our frame. It's square, it looks good. So what I've done is I've cut these bits, and these bits all completely fit. I've checked it, measured it. There you have it, one nice strong window frame. Beside the bed, I want to have a fabric covered panel. I love these fabric covered panels. And inside, we're going to have an LED strip which downlights the panel. Now to do that, I've made a strip of the redwood. I've cut a channel in it and a way for the LED strip to access it. So I'm going to build an end to the bed. My bed's 4 inches or 15 centimeters, and therefore I need to build it up a bit, and I'm going to use this board. I'm screwing from this side so that on the outside there's no screws and it will kind of look good. So the next stage for me in this van is to do the cladding. Now this is 8mm cladding. I think I'm going to use screw cups. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find my stud work. So I've just clamped this one up here just so I can mark out and just check and double check my lights. Put the light here and we'll put the light here. Also a little bit trickier with this one. We've got to go around the cupboard. So we're just gonna keep moving across the roof, making holes for the lights, making those decisions. So I'm just working out what to do with my kitchen unit. I need to be able to get my waste canister out. Yeah, I'd like to have a set of drawers which go back to the waste tank, and I'd like a few more drawers which go a little bit deeper. So I just spent quite a bit of time making these perfectly level and completely square. So what I want to do here is I want one part which goes up, around and down. Bit of a moment of truth. So now I'm going to fix this in. This is not the greatest oak worktop. It's a bit undulating, but it will be perfectly fine for a van. This is my hob. It's a Dometic hob. The next thing is to set up the water tank fill point. Copper pipe is quite malleable. As you see, this has come in a bit of a ring, but if you need to do a tight bend, there's a risk that you just fold it. So what you can use a pipe bender. And to cut your copper pipe, you just clip on your pipe cutter, keep it stable, you can cut your pipe. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my middle manifold to this unit. So this comes directly from the manifold. I've just got to bring it and put it into my regulator. Gas pipe that goes under the van should have plastic coating on it. So I'm just going to make the front cupboard, which will take the vent to the heater. The Propex heater itself, it has its exhaust pipe and air inlet which go underneath the van, so we need to attach those. And it comes with this. So this is where your hot air goes out. And this is the inlet. Just gonna post these through the van. We don't want to have these together because one's pumping out spent air and one's bringing it in. So we'll have them separated out. I'm working on this side of the bed area, and I've put in this little shape. I put on a bigger strip here, which will house the table, and now I'm gonna put in a back box for my plug. This will need to cut a hole in the wood, and I'll need to build some stud work behind it to house a drawer with whatever's left over of the space. So I am going to glue this in place. So I've put my pump and my accumulator in place, and I've just placed my components around, so I've got an idea of where the pipe's going to go. So we've got a lot of my pipes run now. It really didn't take very long. One line goes into my hot water heater, goes through the hot water heater, and then it's hot water. The other goes all the way through and feeds the cold to my shower. The hot water, likewise, goes all the way to my shower. The cold that goes to my shower also has a T-junction. Now the T-junction comes into the back of this cupboard. I have a cut-off valve, and the valve will connect to this tank so that if I want to empty my shower tank into my drinking water tank, it's quite easy to do. So now I'm going to make a few more bits like this. So this one is just going to be it's going to be screwed in as it is, and this one will sit within a little border and it will lift up because we're going to have a storage unit which will stop here. So this one's going to be fixed. This is going to be a flat, and here we just need to put a handle in. So I've added a couple uprights and horizontals, And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work out my cupboard doors. So the ply I'm using for my doors is quite thin, so I'm just going to build up the layer. Now we have a line which goes round, and now I can cut this line precisely. So these will cut to size, I've cut down, I've got the space for the hinge. So I'm going to make a board for the bottom, just using thin ply. So this fits. Now I'm going to put a piece of ply in the back. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue the bottom of this cupboard on. Just want to get it really snug. So clamped it all around. So I'm painting the front of this cupboard. I've got an end piece of the cupboard. I'm just going to glue that on. I'm going to be using this engineered oak flooring. This is basically a laminate, so you have a few millimeters of real oak, and underneath it's MDF, in this case pine. Now I'm just working out where I'm going to place things on my board. So what I'll do is I'll wire up the whole board, and I'll have a whole line of connectors which will go off to my switches, and then I can wire my switches in one by one here afterwards once I've got the whole board set up. I think I'll put my battery to battery charger close to the battery just because that makes sense. I will put my fuse box somewhere in the middle, and then I'll have my MPPT solar charge controller somewhere around here so it can connect easily to the fuse box and to the solar cables that come in from behind. So now I have my board prepared, all I need to do now is wire it in. Now I'm going to just connect my cold and hot pipes. Oh yeah. So the next job is to put in the shower tray. Now we're just gonna pop it in. Just gonna basically press everywhere. I'm gonna put a beam in. So if this cardboard was made of shower wall, I think I'd be quite happy with that. So I'm making sure this is straight along this edge. And I'm going to draw the line down, and then I'm going to double check kind of the key points of measurements just to make sure, because I really don't want to mess this up. So I'll start with some glue, and I know I'm coming up to this line, so we'll just make sure we got a good amount. So this panel's good. Now I'm just going to measure the bottom and the top. It's not easy to push that in, so we're going to have to get some pieces of wood, which is like more or less the right size, and sort of wedge them in place with some other bits of wood and stuff. So I'm going to paint the sides of the van, maybe the roof, but I'm going to do the sides first. So this is a slat panel which is backed onto felt. It comes in these long lengths. It's basically MDF with a laminate, and it's stapled onto this panel. So what I'm hoping to do is around my seating areas to use some of this just to create like a nice effect. So I've cut my panel, I've cut a hole in it which would take my box which will carry all my switches. Now all I've got to do is put it in place and fix it in. It's going to get messy behind here. And this will be our switch panel. So allow my fridge to open. I'm going to have a hinge here. This wood's quite thin, So I've made another piece which will go on the front of it. So I put my polyurethane wood glue on, just get it in the back and make it central. These are the cupboard doors, and the hinges I'm going to use piano hinges. Moment of truth. Hand on it, it'll be a bit easier. Bit of a moment of truth now. I'm going to take out all of these, and hopefully this wall doesn't just pop off or do something horrible. It's quite fun. I've cut these panels to go across the back of the kitchen, leaving space for my shelf. Just making sure, because I've got a flipping hexagon pattern, that it's all matching up. So I'm going to glue these panels on now. Right. Time on the pinchers. So this is my little submergible pump. It's manufactured by a company called Whale. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little smudge of silicone on it. Put a clip on it. I just want this to be sitting really like vertically at the bottom. So now this water tank is done, this end of the water system. So now here is the last tricky part of this build. And it's a little bit critical because it's the design of the flap that will hopefully make a really nice shower wall. So we have got the top in. So next stage, now I'm kind of happy with this, is to start putting in these hinges. Nice. Does the system work? Oh, it worked. I've got my slopey edge and it should just pop on there. There we are. So it just slots in pretty neatly. So I've just cut the other part I had at the opposite angle. So I'm now wiring up the LED strip lights, which will go beside the bed. And these strip lights came with a dimmer. So what I've done is I've taken the end which isn't connected to the LEDs. I snipped it. There's a black and red wire. Because they're going to be in parallel, I'm connecting them up. So red, red, red. And then I'm going to collect up my blacks, my neutrals. So my table comes in assembly and it has 6 bolts. So I've clamped it in place. Now I've just got to do is drill the holes through. So my idea for the table, obviously I've got my raisy moving around bracket thing, but I want my table to kind of come down, and when I put the bed extension foam piece on, I want it to be supporting that. I'm going to make a table with folding edges, which when it's put down underneath, it makes like a strong structure, ridging side to side of the cushions. So I've cut my wood, which will make the sizes. So this is my table, and it's gonna, when it's in its folded position, it's gonna sit here. And what's gonna happen is there'll be a cushion which will come up exactly to here. Nice, that looks pretty good. So I dare sit on it. So on this side of the worktop, I'm going to have an organic waste container. Lovely. Now we're going to install the mixer tap. So the most important thing is that the pipes come out perfectly perpendicular. So we've got the little rubber seals, so make sure they're in, else it's not going to seal. You don't have to do these up insanely tight because it's just compressing into that rubber seal. Looking showery, it's quite a good angle for a roofy shower. And then I just need to decide how high can I put it. Nice, look at that. Shower down position, shower thing. And when you want to shower, you just pop it up there. I'm very happy now with my pop-up shower wall. What I now need to do is decide what happens to the wall that meets it. So now what I need to do is build some stud in here, and then I'm going to put some ply down the side, which will match the height of this. Here we have it, the kind of top piece in. I'm really happy with it. We have a nice bolt. Now we're going to play the game of silicon up the slightly too large hole. I'm going to do nice. Oh, dude, it's quite hard because it catches on these things. So for the ceiling on the inside of this part, which is going to get splashed, I'm going to use this moisture resistant paint. It's like a plasticized paint. This is like a kind of like a bit of an ugly gap up here. So I should be able to just pop in a piece of trim and it will look a lot better anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to wire in some USB points. These ones have like a slidey thing going on. First thing I've got to do is strip the wires back. Then we're just going to connect our USB. Now what I need to do is get these cables back in the hole. In the cables that we looped before we came to the end, we're going black to black to black, red to red to red. That means that if one light dropped off the circuit, then the other lights would work, and we're all wired up in parallel. Go in. Now I'm going to fit the Propex controller. This is the on, fan mode, heat, and thermostat setting. It's just the little clip to go in the right way. Nice. And then we put on fitting and then the olives and tighten it for now. This is the compression fitting, so I need to make sure that that is also all the way in. So now it's time to start commissioning the gas and checking our system. This is a high pressure section going to a regulator. So typically, if there is a leak, you'll see a lot of bubbles coming out. So before I move on and put any fabric or anything in, I want to start Danish oiling. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go around all of my exposed woodwork, anything that I care about, and I'm going to give it a coat. So now I'm going to Danish oil the back of my cooking top, which is also obviously the shower wall. Now I'm going to do this a solid 3 times just to make sure, because I don't want any water to ingress in it. So now I'm going to clad the back doors. We have a rubber seal here, and that also goes for if you use auto carpet, you can't go over or behind the rubber seal. Because these doors have all sorts of different angles on it, I'll match that line. Then we'll cut it on the cross cut, and draw my line, and then I'm going to line it up for the cuts. As you can see, it's not completely straight. And really, it's just a methodic. As you can see, I need to trim this one back a bit to meet my line. Finished the cladding now, so I am making a shelf to go above the kitchen, and at the bottom of the shelf is going to be these grooves, and in these grooves I'm going to use a cable that comes out there to have a couple lines of LED lights just to give extra light to the kitchen. To install the fan surround, I need to cut it down a bit because my roof isn't that deep. Nice. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the slats in the bed. I'm going to use the plain timber, the thin plain timber, to make sure I have the same distance, same width. I'm just doing it basically slat on, slat off. So the way I'm going to do these drawers, I'm going to make the sides and the back, and I'm going to make a piece in the middle, and we're just going to screw, glue, nail gun it all together, and then we'll do the front. So I've cleaned up my drawer sides, and what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pre-drill some holes all the way around up the sides, and then I'm going to use a little line of glue We have a drawer, which is drying. It's already pretty strong. So what I've done is I've put the drawer in, I've clamped it in position, I'm supporting it with my hand, else it would fall down. So before I fix this in, I'm gonna put my sink in, I'm gonna do the plumbing because it's gonna be harder to access when I've got a drawer in the way. So we're just gonna fit the little drain on here. It's got a rubber seal. Use this flexible waste pipe. That means I can poke it either to my waste container inside the van if I don't want it to drain out, or I can let it just drain out through the pipe which I've got going through the van. So I've cut my drawer fronts and I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to work my way down, attaching them and making sure they're perfect. So we've got the kitchen drawers, they're done, they're sanded, we're ready to paint. So I put these handles on the cupboards. I still need to put the clips in and it's looking really good. This one here is a little catch because this is like the pull out part, and I chiseled out a little area, put in a piece of metal, and then I glued this on top just the aesthetics. This just slots into the bolt holes and clicks in. The other thing I need to do is wire up my tap. The tap is essentially a switch. When it turns on, it will turn on our pump. The next thing to do with the shower is I need to make this shower door. So we've constructed the unit, I painted the back and sides grey, I've put on this piano hinge, and on the front we have the shower wall. So my cunning plan with the fridge is to use the fridge as part of the structure. So I'm going to glue the feet of the fridge down, and then we're going to have this cupboard door which should fit very neatly in here. The next game is going to be bolt it to the fridge. Now I got the fridge on a runner. It's quite cool. Big dollop there. This comes out. Obviously we need the space, we're having the folding cushion, and now we can access our fridge of dreams. So beside my bed I am going to have these little panels which have been coated with 5mm foam and then fabric on top. For the next job we do the same thing with the foam but with the fabric. This is the fabric I'm going to use. So let's see if it fits. The next thing I need to do is finish off some kind of cupboard here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a block of wood. I'm going to have a simple flat cupboard which will avoid this handle. Now what I've got to do is get it precisely in the right place. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to put a line of glue there and just prop it and let it settle itself. Squish it on. So I'm going to put now the top of the floorboards. So I use the spare floorboards here because it's always like where people's feet go. So I'm just going to glue it along the battens and probably pop a couple of nails in there just to hold it. Okay, so one of the final parts of the van is applying trim or auto carpet. This is typically a carpet which is a bit fluffier on the back and less fluffy on one side. And it tends to be a little bit stretchy. They say it's got a 4-way stretch. So that means you can sort of mold it around things just by easing it and cutting it and easing it. It's quite easy to cut if you have a very sharp blade. So definitely have a whole bunch of new standing blades because they blunt and fast. And if you use sharp ones, your life is immeasurably easier. Just using a screwdriver to help me get it in. Honestly, this build was brutal. I don't recommend building a van and filming a course in 26 days, but boy am I happy with the result. This van is the result of years of van life and 20 years of experience making things, and I think it might just be the best thing I have ever made. So in a year or two, if you want to buy this one, hit me up. If you didn't notice, I am offering a free online training which will help teach you how to make van life free or profitable. In this video, I will show you exactly how to buy a van, how to fit it out in a profitable way, and teach you how to avoid the mistakes that most people make, and all the other stuff that almost nobody else talks about. If you are thinking about converting a van or living van life, it'll be one of the most valuable things you will ever watch. Just click the link, register for free, and I'll see you there. Another great place to start is to get the van conversion guide. It's packed with useful information and includes 20 video lessons to help you convert a van. Check our website, all the information is there.